Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. Yet so many of us keep rereading the same painful lines, never daring to turn the page. But tonight I dare you to set the book down and write a new one. Life has a way of chaining us to yesterday. The mistakes, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, they sit heavy on our shoulders like bags packed with stones. And every morning, we rise with the weight of what once was, wondering why our feet feel too tired to step into what could be. But I am here to tell you something vital. The past cannot imprison you unless you keep handing it the key. You deserve more than the shadows of yesterday. You deserve to walk into a future clothed in light, in possibility, in freedom. And if you will stay with me, if you will listen with your heart as much as with your ears, you will discover not just how to break free from your past, but how to step boldly, joyfully into the life you were always meant to live. There is no freedom in pretending. There is no power in denial. To begin the journey of breaking free from your past, you must first stand still and acknowledge where you've been. Too many of us try to outrun yesterday as though it will vanish if we move fast enough. But the truth is, no matter how far you run, the shadow of what you refuse to face will always follow. It will meet you in your quietest hours. It will whisper in your sleep. It will knock on the doors of your dreams until you finally open and acknowledge its presence. We are taught to bury pain, to hide mistakes, to put a smile over a wound. But what you bury alive does not die. It grows in the dark, pressing against the soil, waiting to rise again. That is why so many people carry silent storms inside them. They look strong on the outside, but their hearts are weary from holding back the floods they never allowed themselves to release. Acknowledging where you've been is not weakness. It is not a confession of failure. It is a declaration of courage. To look at the roads you have traveled, to trace the scars and say, yes, that was my journey, is an act of power. For if you cannot face your past, how will you ever claim your future? When you acknowledge where you've been, you reclaim authorship over your own story. No longer are you a character lost in someone else's telling. No longer are you a victim of events you refuse to name. You become the narrator, the voice, the truth teller of your life. And there is dignity in truth. There is freedom in honesty. Think of a wound. If you never clean it, if you never examine it, it festers. It becomes infected. It spreads pain to other parts of the body, but when you acknowledge it, when you say, yes, I was cut here, yes, I was broken here, that is when healing begins. Your life is no different. If you deny the places where you were hurt, the pain will continue to control you. But if you face it, if you call it by name, if you look it straight in the eye, you strip it of its hidden power. Some of you are afraid to look back because you think your past is too ugly, too heavy, too shameful to face. You think if you ever allowed yourself to look at it, it would crush you. But the truth is the opposite. It is not the facing of the past that destroys you. It is the running from it. It is the silence. It is the pretending. Acknowledgement is the beginning of liberation. You may say, but I was betrayed. Acknowledge it. You may say, but I was the one who betrayed. Acknowledge it. You may say, but I failed. Acknowledge it. You may say, but I was abandoned. I was wounded. I was rejected. Acknowledge it. Do not minimize it. Do not deny it. Do not disguise it in the language of pride or bitterness. Simply call it what it was and let the truth set you free. There is a profound strength in saying, yes, I have walked through fire. Because in speaking those words, you remind yourself that you are still here. The fire did not consume you. The storm did not wash you away. The darkness did not erase you. You are here, breathing, standing, listening. That means something inside you was greater than what tried to destroy you. That is the miracle of acknowledgement. You not only face the pain, but you also affirm your survival. Acknowledging where you've been also allows you to see how far you've come. So often we measure ourselves by where we are not yet, by what we have not achieved, by what we are still longing for. But take a moment, remember where you started. Remember the nights you thought you would never make it through. Remember the days you thought you would break, and yet you rose. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not gracefully, but you rose. You survived what once seemed unsurvivable. When you acknowledge where you've been, gratitude begins to rise. Gratitude not for the pain itself, but for the endurance, the lessons, the resilience it gave you. You can look at your scars and say, these are not marks of defeat. These are the proof that I lived, that I learned, that I am still becoming. And hear me well, acknowledgement does not mean staying in the past. It does not mean building a house in the valley of your sorrows. It means recognizing the valley so you can climb out of it. It means naming the darkness so you can walk toward the light. Too many people confuse acknowledgement with surrender. They think if they admit their pain, they will be swallowed by it. But acknowledgement is not surrender. It is strategy. It is saying, I see the mountain before me, and now that I have named it, I can climb it. It is saying, I see the chains around my feet, and now that I have looked at them honestly, I can break them. Denial never breaks chains. Only acknowledgement does. Acknowledgement also breeds compassion. When you can admit where you've been, you stop hiding from yourself and you stop hiding from others. You can finally look into another's eyes and say, I know what it feels like to hurt. I know what it feels like to fall, but I also know what it feels like to rise again. And in that moment, your past becomes more than a burden. It becomes a bridge that connects your story to someone else's healing. And isn't that the beauty of life? That even the broken chapters can be turned into wisdom, that even the darkest nights can be turned into guiding lights for someone still lost. But it only begins when you acknowledge where you've been. So, beloved, do not run, do not bury, do not silence your truth. Look at your journey, face your story, speak the words you have been afraid to speak. Say to yourself, this is where I have been. This is what I have walked through. This is what has shaped me. And once you have said it, let it no longer haunt you. Let it no longer chain you. Let it become the soil from which your freedom will grow. There are moments in life that leave marks so deep you think they will never fade. Words spoken in anger, betrayals that cut into the soul, losses that feel unbearable. These things do not simply vanish. They leave imprints. They carve themselves into the heart. And for many of us, those marks turn into scars. We look at them with shame, as though they are reminders of weakness, of failure, of all the ways life broke us down. But hear me well, your scars are not the evidence of defeat. They are the evidence of survival. When the body is wounded, it rushes to heal itself. Skin knits back together, flesh rebuilds, but in that rebuilding, a scar forms, a place where the body says, here I was wounded, but here I healed. It is the same with your spirit. The places you thought would never recover, the moments you thought would end you, the betrayals you thought you could never rise from, those scars are not just reminders of pain, they are proof of your resilience. Yet so many live as if their scars define them. They allow their past pain to write the script of their present identity. They say, I am broken, I am unworthy, I am nothing more than what happened to me. But you are not your scars. You are not your pain. You are not the mistakes you made or the wounds you carry. You are the living, breathing testimony of what it means to endure. There is power in shifting how you see the marks you bear. When you look at a scar, you can choose to see it as an ending or as evidence of continuation. If you see only the pain, you will remain stuck in the moment it was created. But if you see the scar as survival, as strength, as healing, then suddenly the narrative changes. It is no longer I was broken, it becomes I was broken, but I rose. Think about the people who inspire you most. They are not the ones who lived untouched by hardship. They are the ones who were scarred by life and still chose to rise. They are the ones who looked at their pain, who acknowledged their wounds, and who said, "This will not be the end of me. I will not let this moment define the fullness of who I am." Your scars are not cages. They are not chains. They are not marks of shame. They are maps of survival. They are reminders that you were tested and that you are still here. They tell a story not of weakness, but of endurance. And the story they tell is not finished, for you are still writing it every single day you choose to breathe, to rise, to live. But let me tell you something important. Refusing to be defined by your scars does not mean pretending they are not there. It does not mean covering them up with false smiles or hiding them beneath layers of silence. No, it means standing in the light with your scars visible and saying, "Yes, I was hurt here. Yes, I fell here. But look, I healed. I rose. I lived." It means refusing to let pain become your identity while allowing it to become part of your testimony. Some of you carry emotional scars that feel too heavy to name, perhaps a childhood marked by neglect, perhaps a relationship that stripped you of your worth, perhaps choices you made that haunt you even now. Those scars whisper lies, that you are unlovable, that you are damaged, that you are unredeemable. But those are not truths. They are echoes of the wound, and you must learn to silence them, because scars are not ugly. They are beautiful. They are not signs of brokenness. They are signs of repair. They are not the story of your ending. They are the beginning of your continuation. What you think disqualifies you may actually be the very thing that gives you the authority to stand tall, to speak boldly, to live fully. For it is only those who have been wounded and healed who know the true power of life. Refusing to be defined by scars also means refusing to let others hold you hostage to them. People will try to remind you of where you've been. They will point to the marks and say, "See, this is who you are. This is all you'll ever be." But you do not have to accept their narrative. Others may remember you by your scars, but you do not have to live by their memory. You can look them in the eye and say, "Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I carry marks, but I am more than what you see. I am more than what I survived. I am more than the pain of my yesterday." Do not let anyone reduce you to your scars, for scars are not the whole of who you are. They are merely chapters in a story still unfolding. And the story is greater than the marks it carries. There is a kind of beauty that only comes through scars, a wisdom that only comes through pain endured and overcome, a strength that cannot be faked, cannot be taught, cannot be borrowed. It must be lived. And that beauty, that wisdom, that strength, it belongs to you. It is written into your being because of the scars you carry. So hold your head high, walk with dignity. Do not hide the marks of your survival. Wear them as reminders that you lived through what tried to destroy you. Let them become symbols not of who you were, but of who you are becoming. For scars do not define, they reveal. They reveal the strength that lives within you. They reveal the resilience of your spirit. They reveal the unstoppable force of a life that refuses to be conquered. You are not your scars. You are not your wounds. You are not your mistakes. You are the healer. You are the survivor. You are the one who endured and still stands. And there is no definition more powerful than that. Guilt is one of the heaviest burdens the human heart can carry. It settles quietly at first, whispering reminders of what you should have done, what you should not have said, where you should have been different. Over time, those whispers grow louder, echoing in your mind like a chorus that will not end. And before long, guilt becomes more than a passing thought. It becomes a prison. You wake with it. You sleep with it. You live each day chained to the memory of what you cannot undo. But hear me now, guilt is not a life sentence. It is a weight you were never meant to carry forever. Guilt has a purpose. It awakens the conscience. It teaches us where we have erred. It shows us how to make amends. But once its lesson is learned, you must release it. Holding on to guilt does not make you noble. Carrying it endlessly does not make you righteous. It makes you weary. It makes you small. It keeps you chained to a moment that no longer deserves to own you. So many people confuse guilt with responsibility. Responsibility says, I did this. I must make it right. Responsibility invites action, invites growth, invites change. But guilt says, I did this, and therefore I am forever broken. Responsibility pushes you forward. Guilt holds you back. Responsibility strengthens. Guilt diminishes. If you are ever to step into the life you deserve, you must learn the difference. You are not the same person who made those choices. Life does not leave us where it found us. You have grown since that mistake. You have learned since that moment. You have changed since that chapter. But guilt will try to keep you frozen, chained to an identity that no longer fits. It will try to convince you that you are nothing more than the worst thing you have done. And that is a lie. Forgiving yourself is not about erasing the past. You cannot erase what has happened, just as you cannot unburn a flame. But forgiveness is about reclaiming your future. It is about saying, yes, I stumbled. Yes, I faltered. But I will not let this stumble define the rest of my journey. Forgiveness is not denial. It is release. Release from the constant punishment you've inflicted upon yourself. Release from the voices that keep rehearsing the same mistakes in your mind. Release from the belief that you are unworthy of joy, of peace, of love. Consider this. If someone you loved came to you with sorrow in their eyes, confessing their failures, asking for grace, would you not show them compassion? Would you not remind them that they are more than their mistakes? Then why do you deny yourself the same mercy? Why do you grant forgiveness to others yet refuse it for your own heart? Guilt becomes a form of self-cruelty when it is carried too long. It whispers to you in the night, robbing you of rest. It follows you through the day, stealing joy from even the brightest moments. You laugh, but it reminds you of why you do not deserve happiness. You love, but it whispers that you are not worthy of being loved in return. This is not humility. This is bondage, and life is too precious to be lived in chains of your own making. Some of you hold on to guilt because you think releasing it means excusing what you did. But release is not excuse. Release is recognition that punishment has already been served in the nights you wept, in the days you carried shame, in the weight you bore silently for years. Release is saying, I will take the lessons with me, but I will not carry the chains. Others cling to guilt because it has become familiar. It feels strange to imagine a life without it. You have worn it so long that it feels like part of your identity. But you must understand, familiarity is not freedom. Just because guilt has lived with you for years does not mean it belongs to you. Just because you have carried it does not mean you must continue to carry it. You can choose differently. You can choose lightness. You can choose grace. You are not the same person who made those choices. Every sunrise gives you a chance to choose again, to live again, to love again. Do not let a single moment of your past rob you of the 1,000 moments of your future. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can choose how it shapes you. You can let guilt bury you, or you can let its lesson build you. Do not mistake me. This is not easy. Releasing guilt requires courage. It requires you to look yourself in the eye and say, I forgive you. And perhaps those are the hardest words you will ever speak, but they are also the most liberating, because in forgiving yourself, you give yourself permission to live again. Release does not mean forgetting. Release means remembering without chains. It means looking back at who you were and blessing that version of yourself for surviving what they knew then. It means thanking them for their courage, acknowledging their mistakes, and then setting them free so you can continue becoming. Life is too short to be lived as a constant apology. Life is too beautiful to be wasted in self-punishment. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve the joy of knowing that you have outgrown the mistakes of your past. And that joy will not come from clinging to guilt. It will come from letting it go. So tonight, let the burden drop. Lay it down at last. Say to yourself, I have carried this weight long enough. I have punished myself long enough. I have learned the lessons, and now I will live. For the life you deserve will not wait for you in yesterday's sorrow. It is waiting for you in tomorrow's dawn. And the only way to step into it is to release the burden of guilt and walk free. There comes a point in life when you must decide whose voice you will allow to shape you. Too many of us live not by our own truth, but by the opinions of others. We bend, we shrink, we alter ourselves just to fit the expectations of people who may never truly see us. And slowly, almost without realizing it, we lose our own reflection in the mirror. We stop asking, who am I? And instead ask, who do they want me to be? That is no way to live. That is no way to walk in freedom. People will always have something to say. They will always hold memories of the person you used to be, and they will try to chain you to those memories. They will point at your past mistakes as if they define your present worth. They will measure you against their standards and their insecurities. But the question is not what they say. The question is, will you let their words imprison you? The opinions of others are fleeting. One day they praise you, the next they criticize you. One moment they applaud, the next they condemn. If your identity rests on the shifting sands of public opinion, you will forever be unstable. You will rise and fall, not with your own truth, but with the fickleness of their approval. And you deserve better than that. You deserve to stand on the solid ground of who you truly are, regardless of what they think or say. Some of you are still living under the shadow of words spoken long ago. Perhaps a parent said you would never amount to anything. Perhaps a teacher dismissed your potential. Perhaps a friend betrayed you and defined you by your worst moment. And even now, their voices echo in your mind, shaping how you see yourself. But hear me, those voices do not hold the authority to define you unless you give it to them. Their words may have been sharp, but they were not sacred. Their judgments may have been loud, but they were not truth. Freedom comes when you reclaim your own voice, when you stop waiting for their validation and begin to validate yourself, when you stand in the fullness of who you are and say, this is me, flawed, growing, alive, worthy. Freedom comes when you choose not to live as an echo of their expectations, but as the sound of your own becoming. There will always be people who remind you of who you were. They will say, I remember when you failed. I remember when you fell. I remember when you did this or said that. But you must learn to answer them with courage. Yes, that was then, but this is now. I am not who I was yesterday. I am becoming something greater. You are under no obligation to stay the same simply because others remember you a certain way. Growth means change. Healing means evolution. And the ones who cannot accept your growth are not the ones who get to narrate your story. The tragedy of living for the opinions of others is that it keeps you from discovering the life that is truly yours. You dim your light so they will not call you arrogant. You silence your truth so they will not call you rebellious. You shrink your dreams so they will not call you unrealistic. And in the end, you trade your freedom for their approval. But approval is never enough to feed a soul. You can win their applause and still feel empty because applause is not the same as authenticity. You must understand this. Not everyone will celebrate your freedom. Some will resent it because your courage exposes their fear. Some will resist it because your growth threatens their comfort. Some will reject it because your truth does not match the story they prefer to tell about you. But that is not your concern. You are not here to fit into the small boxes others build for you. You are here to expand, to rise, to live fully. Think of the great oak tree. It does not stop growing because someone says it has grown too tall. It does not apologize for spreading its branches wide, for reaching toward the sky. It simply grows because that is its nature. You too must grow. You too must rise, regardless of who approves or disapproves. For your becoming is not dependent on their permission. Breaking free from the opinions of others is an act of courage, but it is also an act of love. Love for yourself, love for the truth that lives inside you. When you choose your own voice over their judgment, you are saying to your soul, I hear you, I honor you, I will not silence you. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You begin to breathe freely again. The weight lifts, the chains fall, and you realize that the only approval you ever truly needed was your own. Of course, this does not mean closing your ears to all wisdom. There are voices meant to guide, meant to sharpen, meant to help you grow. But there is a difference between wisdom and opinion. Wisdom builds. Opinion often diminishes. Wisdom speaks with love. Opinion often speaks from insecurity. You must learn to discern the difference, to take what strengthens you and to release what binds you. Let them talk. Let them remember the old you. Let them misunderstand. None of it can stop the life that is waiting for you. Their opinions are shadows. You are the substance. Their words are echoes. You are the sound. Their judgments are temporary. You are eternal. So walk boldly into your truth. Stop bowing to the weight of their expectations. Stop waiting for their applause. Stop carrying their judgments as though they were law. You have one life, one chance to live fully, to live freely, to live authentically. Do not give it away to the shifting winds of opinion. You are not who they say you are. You are who you choose to become. And when you finally break free from their voices, when you finally silence the noise and listen to your own soul, you will discover that the life you deserve has been waiting all along, just beyond the bars of their approval. Every sunrise comes with a gift that too many of us overlook, the gift of choice. No matter what happened yesterday, no matter how heavy the night, the morning brings with it an invitation to begin again. And yet, so often, we move through life as though we are powerless, as though we are at the mercy of what was done to us, of what was said about us, of what we once chose in ignorance or pain. But freedom begins with the recognition that you are never without choice. You may not be able to control what happened to you, but you can always choose how you respond, how you rise, how you move forward. Choice is the architect of destiny. Every great transformation begins not with circumstances, but with a decision. The decision to leave behind what no longer serves you. The decision to forgive instead of remain bitter. The decision to rise instead of stay down. Life does not change simply because time passes. Life changes when you make a choice. Yet many people live as though choice does not belong to them. They say, I cannot help it. This is just who I am. This is just how life is. But those are the words of someone who has forgotten their power. To say you cannot choose is to surrender your authority to the past. To say you cannot change is to hand your life over to circumstance. And that is not the truth. The truth is, every day is an invitation to choose differently. Think of the moments in your life when choice altered everything. Perhaps it was the choice to walk away from something that was breaking you. Perhaps it was the choice to try again when you had every reason to quit. Perhaps it was the choice to believe in yourself when no one else did. Those choices may have seemed small in the moment, but they shaped your future. That is the quiet power of choice. It ripples forward in ways you cannot always see, opening doors you never imagined, leading you to places you once thought impossible. And here is the miracle. No one can steal your choice. They can take your possessions. They can tarnish your name. They can wound your body, but they cannot choose for you. They cannot decide how you will carry the pain. They cannot dictate whether you will surrender or endure. That authority belongs to you alone. Yes, there will be seasons when life feels heavy, when you feel stripped of options, when circumstances close in and it seems as though there is no way forward. But even then, choice is still present. You may not be able to choose what is happening, but you can choose your perspective. You can choose to see hope when despair seems louder. You can choose to keep moving when standing still feels easier. You can choose to trust that even in the darkest night, morning will come. Some of you are waiting for permission to live differently. You think you cannot begin again until someone else approves, until the conditions are perfect, until the pain disappears. But life does not work that way. There is no perfect moment to begin. There is no magic permission slip that will be handed to you. Freedom comes when you realize you already hold the pen. You already hold the key. You already have the authority to say, this is how my story will continue. Choice is power, but it is also responsibility. To choose means to accept that your life is not in the hands of fate, but in your own, and that can be frightening. Because if your choices shape your destiny, then you must admit that where you are today is at least partly the result of yesterday's decisions. But do not let that realization condemn you. Let it empower you. If yesterday's choices brought you here, then today's choices can take you somewhere new. Choice is not about perfection. You will not always choose rightly. You will stumble. You will falter. You will wish at times that you could go back and decide differently. But that is the beauty of life. It gives you another chance and another and another. Every sunrise is a fresh invitation. Every breath is a reminder that as long as you are alive, you still have options. Do not underestimate the small choices. Choosing to speak kindly to yourself instead of cruelly. Choosing to get up one more time after falling. Choosing to believe in possibility instead of drowning in doubt. These choices, repeated daily, transform a life. They create momentum. They build strength. They open doors. And before long, you will look back and realize that it was not one grand moment that set you free, but 1,000 small choices stacked on top of each other. Freedom is not found in waiting for life to hand you something new. Freedom is found in choosing it for yourself, choosing to release what weighs you down, choosing to forgive what wounded you, choosing to dream again even after disappointment, choosing to take the next step even when the path is unclear. That is the power of choice, to turn uncertainty into possibility, to turn endings into beginnings, to turn pain into growth. You may not be able to rewrite your past, but you can decide how the next chapter will read. You may not be able to erase the scars, but you can choose whether they will define you or strengthen you. You may not be able to silence the opinions of others, but you can choose to no longer let them govern your truth. Every moment you are faced with this sacred invitation. Will you choose fear or will you choose freedom? Will you choose regret or will you choose redemption? Will you choose to stay bound or will you choose to step forward? Life is not happening to you. It is responding to you. It bends in the direction of your choices, and the life you deserve is waiting, not on fate, not on chance, not on the approval of others, but on your decision. So when the sun rises tomorrow, remember this: you have the power to choose. Choose courage over fear. Choose forgiveness over bitterness. Choose faith over despair. Choose freedom over chains. For in every choice, you are not just shaping a moment, you are shaping a destiny. There is a sound inside you that the world has been waiting to hear, a voice that carries your truth, your story, your wisdom, your strength. But too often, that voice is silenced. Life has a way of pressing down on us, convincing us to mute ourselves, teaching us that it is safer to whisper than to speak, safer to stay small than to stand tall. Slowly, the voice within becomes buried under layers of fear, shame, doubt, and the endless opinions of others. And yet, no matter how deeply it is buried, that voice never dies. It waits for the moment you are ready to reclaim it. Your voice is not just the sound that comes from your lips, it is the expression of your soul. It is your truth spoken into the world. It is the way you declare, I am here, I matter, and I will not be erased. When you silence your voice, you silence the power of your existence. You begin to live half a life carrying unspoken words in your chest, unexpressed dreams in your heart, untold stories in your spirit, and that silence is heavy. It is suffocating. It keeps you bound to a smaller version of yourself than you were ever meant to be. Perhaps you lost your voice because someone told you your words didn't matter. Perhaps they mocked you when you tried to speak. Perhaps they told you that you were too much, too loud, too bold, or maybe not enough. Perhaps you were punished for daring to tell the truth. So little by little you withdrew. You spoke less. You dreamed less. You believed less. Until eventually your silence became your survival. But survival is not the same as living. Survival keeps you alive. Reclaiming your voice lets you live. When you reclaim your voice, you give yourself permission to exist fully. You give yourself permission to tell your truth without apology. You give yourself permission to take up space in a world that once told you to shrink. There is a reason silence feels so heavy, because it is unnatural. You were not created to be invisible. You were not born to carry your truth in silence. You were given a voice for a reason. You were meant to speak, to sing, to declare, to proclaim. Your voice was meant to shape the world around you. And every time you hold back what is within, the world loses something irreplaceable. The first step to reclaiming your voice is to believe that it matters, not because it will be applauded, not because it will be understood, but because it is yours. Your voice has value simply because it belongs to you. It does not need validation to be worthy. It does not need consensus to be powerful. It does not need perfection to be true. It only needs to be spoken. When you reclaim your voice, you will meet resistance. Some will be uncomfortable with your truth because it disrupts their illusion. Some will resent your courage because it reveals their fear. Some will try to silence you again because they cannot control a voice that is free. But that is not your burden. You are not responsible for how others receive your truth. You are responsible only for speaking it. There is a liberation that comes with finding your voice again. The moment you stop rehearsing silence and start declaring truth, chains begin to fall. You realize you no longer need to bend to every opinion. You realize you no longer need to pretend to be smaller. You realize that your voice is not a threat. It is a gift. And when you offer it boldly, you give others permission to find their own. Think of the stories that have changed the world, the songs that have lifted spirits, the speeches that have moved nations. All of them began with someone daring to use their voice, someone daring to say, I will not be silent, I will not pretend, I will not bury what burns inside me. And you too carry that same fire. You too carry words that can heal, inspire, awaken, and transform. Reclaiming your voice does not always mean standing on a stage or shouting to the masses. Sometimes it means whispering the truth to yourself after years of lies. Sometimes it means telling your story to one person who needs to hear it. Sometimes it means writing the words you were too afraid to speak. Sometimes it means singing again after years of silence. The size of the audience does not matter. What matters is that you speak. What matters is that you no longer silence yourself. When you reclaim your voice, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a shadow of yourself. You are the fullness of yourself. You are no longer a silent observer of life. You are an active participant in it. You are no longer defined by what others say. You are defined by what you declare. And remember this, your voice is not only for you. Somewhere, someone is waiting for the words you carry. Someone is drowning in silence, and your truth may be the lifeline they need. Someone is lost in darkness, and your voice may be the spark that shows them the way. When you reclaim your voice, you do not just free yourself, you create space for others to do the same. Do not be afraid if your voice shakes. Do not be afraid if your words tremble. Even a trembling voice carries power. Even a whisper can break chains. Even the softest truth, when spoken, is stronger than the loudest silence. So rise, open your mouth, and let the sound of your soul be heard again. Say what you have been afraid to say. Declare what you have been told to hide. Speak the truth you have been carrying all along. For the world needs your voice, and you need it even more. There is no freedom in silence. There is no healing in suppression. There is no joy in invisibility. Reclaim your voice, and you reclaim your life. And when you finally speak without apology, without fear, without chains, you will discover that your voice was never lost. It was only waiting for your courage to call it back. There comes a moment when you must stop looking backward, stop replaying the past, stop rehearsing the pain, and finally turn your face toward the horizon that calls your name. Life is not only about surviving what has been, it is about stepping boldly into what can be. You cannot change where you've been, but you can choose where you are going. And the truth is this: you deserve a life that is not chained to yesterday. You deserve a life that reflects the beauty, the strength, and the brilliance of who you are becoming. To step into the life you deserve, you must first recognize that you are worthy of it. Too often we sabotage ourselves by believing that joy belongs to others, that success belongs to others, that peace belongs to others, that healing belongs to others. We convince ourselves that our mistakes disqualify us, that our scars make us unworthy, that our broken places leave us less than whole. But hear this: your worth is not determined by what you've been through. Your worth is not measured by the opinions of others. Your worth is not diminished by the years you spent in pain. You were born worthy. Nothing has the power to strip that from you. Stepping into the life you deserve requires courage.